Hello students, this is Mrs. Detman.
This is Mrs. Beniski.
And we are ready to start your frog dissection today. You are going to begin the body cavities lab. You'll need to have this diagram of the internal structure of the frog out in front of you and with you all day today.
Great. And well, we don't need this diagram because we want to dissect a frog and not a diagram. So here we go.
Right.
We are
Looks
going
like he's
to
waving to us.
yeah, sort of.
Or
do a little jig there too.
Yes.
This is a grass frog, and you'll notice right away when you put the frog belly side up, because that's the side we're going to dissect on, you'll notice that sometimes you'll see a little split in the skin. That's just because the skin's sort of delicate and the chemicals that we're preserving in are sort of deteriorating that skin. So don't worry about that, but if there is a slit, you can take your small scissors and you can slip the scissors right underneath where the slit is and start cutting the skin only all the way up to the jaw of the frog and then all the way down to like the hip area of the frog.
Mrs. Beniski, when we dissected the earthworm, there was some connective tissue between the skin and the muscles. Might we find that in here too?
You know what? If you might feel like it's sort of attached, and that's exactly what that is. It's like a little. Here's some right here. It just wants to.
I see it.
It wants to hang on. It's holding the skin to the muscles. Imagine if your skin was not holding onto your muscles, it would be hanging off you like cloth. So that's what that is. I'm going to make a quick little cut to both sides. So I'm really trying to, oh, there's some more of that connective tissue.
So your first cut was up from the waist up under the chin of the frog, under the jawbone, and then you're going from shoulder to shoulder and hip to hip.
Like I'm really just, like I'm taking some fabric and just sort of like folding it back, but I can't really fold it back until I make a little cut.
Sure. Okay.
Now the other thing you're going to notice after you open the skin is you're going to see some organs probably, not all of you, but most of you will see some organs sort of poking out. You know, that's the same exact thing as what happened with the skin. It's just the chemical, the preservative has really worked on that delicate tissue. And I'm going to pin this skin back so I can, oh my goodness, something gush. What was that? It wasn't blood. You know what it is? It's just some of that preserving fluid. And when it comes out, we just sort of go, oh well, but it's nothing that came from the frog. It was just the fluid that was sitting in. So now I sit here with my froggy and I want to get all that connective tissue gone because I want to just now only work on the muscular layer.
Okay. So Mrs. Beniski, is that muscle tissue underneath the skin then?
This is a layer of abdominal muscle. And you can almost see there's little lines here. This is like the froggy six-pack. It's mine does not. I have seen way more buff frogs. I mean, seriously. But you'll have to see.
A bit of a couch potato.
Too many Doritos and Mountain Dew. But okay, so you'll see a midline here. Let's get rid of all that inside. Let's push it back in. The midline is where you want to slide the scissors under, and you're just going to again cut that from the bottom area up to the top. Oh my goodness, now I get up to this area, and if you had felt this before you started, you would feel that the rib cage is right here.
So it's harder than the rest of the abdominal cavity, Mrs. Beniski?
Yeah, you know, if you were like eating a piece of fried chicken or something, and you got and your teeth bit down on something, it would be the same kind of bones. Right? Okay. But you're not biting on this, but your scissors are. Please don't. Oh gosh. So your scissors are going to encounter that, and I know that can be really tough for some people dissecting. So make your braver dissectors take that cut.
Yes.
Or if you know you can do it, just go for it because nothing's going to happen. It's just
you might surprise yourself with how well you do, even if you're thinking this is something that's not super exciting to you.
Happens every year. Yeah. It's just.
So you're cutting again the same pattern that you made with the skin. You're cutting from the hips up to the lower jaw. This is through muscle tissue now, though, so it's thicker.
Now I'm going to unpin what I...
going from shoulder to shoulder and hip to hip so we can open up that body cavity.
And
look what we found.
And I don't really even need to cut that top one because once I've got my scissors through the rib cage,
Yeah.
I can simply just sort of spread it with my hands. And
Okay.
now, now.
So, Mrs. Beniski, your hands are getting pretty dirty there. Are you sure it's okay to do this without gloves on?
Well, I have never used gloves for dissection, and I am still here. But
Thank goodness.
I know that a lot of our kids would rather use their gloves, and that's fine. I sort of need to feel what I'm touching, you know,
Yeah.
and I don't get that when I'm wearing gloves.
Okay.
So now, so you're fine either way.
Wow,
Notice that
look
I'm
at all those
gonna be fine.
organs.
There's a ton of stuff in here. One thing you're going to see right
Right
off the
away.
bat is if this is, what do you think that is, Miss Detman?
Wow, those are pretty amazing. They're kind of yellowish. Some of them might look whitish. Those are what we call fat bodies.
Oh.
What does a frog use those for, Mrs. Beniski?
Well, gosh, you know, fat in general is just stored energy.
Mm-hmm.
And so any animal without, if it had nothing, you'd know that it was starving to death.
Yeah.
This frog was pretty well fed, but you know, food isn't available all the time, so the animal kingdom, animals have figured out a way to store energy for later when there is no food.
Yep.
And so, but we don't
What
really...
a cool adaptation.
Yeah, no kidding. We don't want to dissect it, and because it really doesn't show us anything, and we're just going to put that off to the side,
Okay.
and that's done.
So we took out the fat
Oops, I
bodies.
gotta
Some
cut.
of you might not find fat bodies inside your frog, but if you do, take them out.
Ooh, and then some of you might also... Oh my gosh, there's a lot more in here.
Wow, this one was ready for whatever may come.
I'm thinking those Doritos and Mountain Dew stuff. Either that, or maybe it was just at the end of a summer. It would have been eating a lot of insects.
Totally.
Oh, I hope I didn't just lose something there. So, and some of you might find black and white foamy things that are eggs. And if you find eggs, then you know you have a female. Well, so we are here today to mostly look at the digestive system. And the first thing that we find in the digestive system is this right here. It's called the liver. And again,
It's a huge
it's
organ.
enormous. And there's three big slight pieces, lobes of the liver. There's one, there's two, there's three.
Nice.
And I tend to then also just sort of very carefully slice those lobes of liver out.
Make
so
sure
I can-
everyone in your lab team has seen them and where they're located first, though. They are the first, usually the very first organ that you'll see when you...
Yeah, and they're
open
pretty
your
big and in the way. So there's another little organ inside the liver, and that's called the gallbladder. It's a little sac, right there, sort of in the middle of the three lobes of the liver. And I'm going to take out the second lobe, and this is a toughie.
So while Mrs. Beniski is doing this, I want to point out that if you have your human digestive system diagram next to you while dissecting the frog and looking at the frog diagram of its internal anatomy, you're going to notice a lot of similarities even in the placement of the organs between the frog and the human. Everything is very similarly organized.
All right, well, this is a nice big muscle I'm going to clip out of here. Now, this gallbladder, I don't need that there, but it's not bothering me too much because all I want to do right now is get to the stomach, and that's this.
Whoa.
This stomach is going to be really interesting.
Yeah, it looks like there might be something in there.
There are things in there. We're going to find out about it. But what I always do is I go as far up to the top of the digestive tract as I can. In fact, once I've had the mouth open, you can take the end of a probe and you can put that down the stomach and see if you can feel it coming down the esophagus. That's one way to know where the top of the
stomach is.
and where the esophagus is too. And so I'm going to just cut up at the very top where the stomach is connected to the esophagus. And I even have a little pancreas.